Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Lethal Sales. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you all. Before we start with tonight's topic, I would like to introduce Larry's brand new co host on Lethal Sales, Mr. Ian Nethercott.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay.
Thanks.
Welcome, Ian.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so tonight's topic is who is your mentor? Because it's Father's Day coming up. And whether it was your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, a friend, a colleague, we'd love to hear who impacted your life and helped you to the success you've reached today. And we're
Why
going to
don't
start
we?
with Wendy.
Yep, I was going to say Wendy, and then
Oh,
let's get Tony Thorstad in so we make
right.
sure we get a good fill of him before he has to jump out.
Okay, then I'll give you a quick one that I can land my plane right away on. My dad. My dad was my king.
Yeah.
My dad was a race car driver when I was a drag racer when I was a kid, and then he went into automotive, and um, they called him the Silver Fox, and he was crazy. And he had a headhunter. I started with him as a night receptionist at 16, and he had a an Air Force recruiter stalking me not incessantly because I was the smartest kid in the class. I was a straight A student and all this other garbage. So he figured he'd get the Air Force to pay for my college. That was the idea. But I got all the way. I was going to go into basically I had to do a secret security clearance because they were going to put me in CIA, whatever, in intelligence or whatever. So I got all the way to getting because I got like a 97% overall score on my test, my whatever you call the testing. I'm at a loss for words right now. I've been talking and thinking too much today. So, but I went all the way to getting sworn in and I bailed. And then I ended up going to engineering school and still ended up in automotive. So along every step of my professional journey, as well as my personal journey, my dad was my biggest supporter. Um, he um, he just all the time made me feel like, unless I was screwing up, of course, and sometimes he was so busy I had to do something naughty here and then just to get attention. But he was always my biggest supporter throughout my career in automotive. He guided me. He girled me. He gave me some tough love when I needed the tough love to straighten me up, and he the cure all, fix all. My professional mentors, I'll say briefly, were equally early on in my BDC career, actually, and that would have been Alpha Dog for my sales training back in the 90s. And I'm echoing. Um, somebody, I don't know why that's weird. Oh, now it's gone. Doug, I think it's your speaker, actually. That's maybe. Okay, so David Kane also training when I opened my first BDC. That was great. He was very helpful, Kane and Auto. And of course, Greg Goebel in the subprime space. And when I launched my first BDC, he was my mentor. And then I went to work for him. And so besides my dad, I'd say professionally, in order of how the oldest one first was Alpha Dog, Jim Ziegler, also at Amato, and David Kane and Greg Goebel. Probably mostly it was Greg Goebel because he hung by me for years and years and showed me how to branch out independently as well as a trainer in BDC and subprime brain, taught me everything I know. And that's who I have. And I'm landing my plane.
Mr.
Hey,
Thorstad?
Wendy, hold on a second. When you mentioned CIA, was that the Culinary Institute of America?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I've always said that if I am sentenced to death and they say you have a last meal, I'm going to let Paul Meijer cater it because it'll be like a 19-course meal. Probably take him 3, 4 weeks to get around to executing me. Mr. Thorstad, who is your mentor, my friend?
Tony, you're muted. There you go.
A tech guy. I can never figure this thing out.
Yeah.
A little backstory on my mentor. First of all, you know how people often say when they were trying to become successful or starting a new business or trying something new, people often say, well, everybody said I couldn't do it. People told me I couldn't do it. I shouldn't try it. I've tried that. It doesn't work. You know, we often hear people complain about the folks who were naysayers in their lives. Well, I got to tell you, I didn't have naysayers because early in my career, nobody cared enough about me to say nay. That is, I had no mentors who either encouraged me, so I didn't have yay sayers, I didn't have naysayers. I just forged forward. But somewhere around 1998-ish, 7 or 8-ish, I met a guy with a beard who liked to walk around in sandals. And he's been around for about 2,000 years. You guys know who I'm talking about. But when I met him, I met a man who was in his 60s at the time. His name's Eldon Davis. And Eldon Davis has been a pastor in his entire life, like his entire life. Eldon is going to be 90 years old here in November. But when I met Eldon, the day I met him, he invited me to do a one-on-one Bible study that was supposed to last 6 weeks. It took us 7 years to get through that one-on-one Bible study. But this man was amazing to me. I'm in my 30s. My life is a wreck. Been in the car business for 10 years. And I was a criminal in the car business before I met the guy with the sandals and the beard. But Eldon met with me every Friday at 5 a.m. for 16 years.
Wow.
And studied with me one-on-one and mentored me. And he would call me every Wednesday and he'd say, Tony, you got your homework done? And I would say, I don't have it done now, but I'll have it done by Friday. So this man was loyal to me for 16 years and he's become my best friend. He's going to be 90 years old. He was my age that I am today when I first met him. And I thank God for him every day. And he has been my yay sayer, the guy who's told me I can do anything I want to do. So I'm thankful for Eldon.
It's a great story.
Thank you.
Okay. Larry, wake up.
No, I'm contemplating Tony's story.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we underestimate the effect we can have on other people if we pour ourselves into them. For Russell and people that are joining us a bit late, Mr. Nilsen, Peter Smith has decided to devote some time to other projects and has stepped away. So we have the absolute pleasure of adding Ian Nethercott as a co-host. Man, I can't think of a better guy.
Right
and the
on.
funny thing is, a lot of the people that I met on this show, I met through Ian's show, the Auto Hub. So the reciprocity here is great. Ian, would you like to tell us who your mentors have been or are? And again, thank you so much for agreeing to jump in with our merry band here.
No problem. I guess my first mentor was probably my dad. Had a family history in the car business. His dad was in the business, owned dealerships. His brother was in the business. He was in the business before he was a medical doctor. Unfortunately, I lost him at a young age. Him and my mother were killed in a car crash when I was 27. So I unfortunately had other mentors from then, but I think pretty much anyone who I've worked with at a senior level when I was a junior person in the auto industry or other industries was a mentor. My first auto industry retail mentor was a guy actually from North Carolina called Russ Boykin, who didn't have a perfect life in his own life, but he was very good at helping other people learn the ropes. But really, at the end of the day, anyone that I've touched in the last 35 years, at least 25 years in this business, maybe 35 years in my working life, rightly or wrongly, has had an impact. But I think you glom onto those people who you can help with something and they can help you with something. So, for example, to me, it's always about, how can I help someone else? And usually that comes back in some way or another. But true mentors would probably be people that, I respect based usually on age and experience that can teach me something I don't know. Or in some cases, people that are a lot younger than me that know stuff that I don't know that maybe I was unaware of. So I always, there's a gentleman that I had on the show. His name is George Serglu. So he's a crazy Greek car salesman in Toronto, and he just does crazy stuff with promoting what he does. But there's another gentleman, obviously Larry has taught me a lot as well, as is everyone else on the panel, pretty much that I know. But I think it's the people that can think outside the box and have the ability to just do it and not worry about the repercussions of it, which inspire me. Because I think there's a lot of people that want to do stuff that just don't do it, just because they're worried. It's the people that do it that learn stuff, and that's what really inspires me. Is people that are not afraid to take the risk. So that's kind of my story on mentorship. I think there's always more mentors in your life than you realize. But
That's
my
cool.
dad was clearly my first. Like he was an unstoppable force in my mind when he was here.
Paul, are you in between chewing? Would you like to tell us who your mentor was, my friend?
I'm gonna go last because I'm in the restaurant. So as soon as I walk out, I'm just waiting for the bill to come.
Cool.
So come back.
Did I get that? Did everybody interpret that the right way? Paul's going to walk out on the bill. A true Clark guy.
I got it that way too.
Gentlemen, who would like to go next? I'm very anxious since I respect all of you so much. Who would like to go next and tell us about their mentor?
I will.
Go ahead.
So interesting. I knew all my life. My father was certainly not my mentor. It turned out in later in life that he was. I just didn't know it as I was growing up in those most informable years. Had a lot of bad habits, many of them. And but I grew up, born into upper middle class, mom and dad, brother, sister, blah blah blah. And well, I went off the rails at an early age. And I grew up knowing about what Tony referenced, the man in the long hair and sandals, but I didn't know what it was to know him. I just knew of him, but I didn't know him. Well, I met him on December 1st, 1994, and I started a tremendous relationship, and my life was transformed. Now, about 4 to 5 years after that, as I was making my way through this clean and sober life and getting things back on track and a lot of wreckage of the past put in its proper place, etc. A lot of demons I had to deal with. I met a guy. I was involved. I was running a Chrysler Jeep Plymouth store at the time, and I met this man who is just an amazing multi-millionaire who inspired and motivated me. Every couple of weeks, we would get together with a group of people, and there was other such people. And I was on fire. I was trying to play catch up because I got clean and sober at 34. And it's like, hey, eighth grade was the last grade I had a lot of things against me where people all my life said, you can't do that. I tried that won't work stuff. And I realized how much I really need to protect what's going on between these ears and to do some reprogramming because my hard drive was corrupt. So it started out with the man in the sandals. And then this guy's name was Roger. And, there's something to be said about when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. I was on fire. Anyway, I'd really gotten close to this guy externally, and I wanted to. I was learning to reach out and take risks, not knowing what I was doing at the time because I was scared of my own shadow. And I reached out and asked him if I could take him to lunch. And I wanted to ask him, to tell me his story, how he got where he got, because he had some trials and tribulations in his life. And he agreed. Really, I wanted to find out, did his insides really match everything I saw on the outside? And in fact, they did. And then I had this preconceived notion in my head that I think a lot of people have. Being a multi-millionaire, this guy had to be corrupt and was burning people at every turn to get what he got. That was the interpretation or impression I had of people that had that kind of wealth. That means they were stepping on people to continue to get up that ladder. Turns out it really wasn't the case at all. And as an example, let's say if you could imagine, because we all think in pictures, a cul-de-sac of, 5 homes, and they're all million or multi-million dollar homes with all these rich people. and some of them making 700 million 5 a year or more. But they're 6 months away from losing everything they got, just like anybody else. They don't understand how to make money work for them. They knew how to trade their time for money. And maybe they had $2.5 million worth of debt and they're only making 1.2. So at any turn, if something happened, they would have lost a lot of stuff. And I realized that they're just broke at a different level. Okay. Now, yeah. So anyway, I met him, we talked, and he agreed to, I mean, I was hungry and he helped because I was just 38 or 39 at that time. And I realized that when people are in junior high or high school, they have these huge dreams and aspirations, and they're going to go out and make their mark and how they were going to do it and what they were going to get a degree in. And unfortunately, most people don't even work in the chosen field. They spend all that money to get that degree in. But regardless, then they start trading their time for money. And the reality sets in and their dreams are real personal to them. And the older you get, the harder it is to pull those dreams out because you've been ridiculed and you can't measure up and all those things. So he helped pull more of that out of me. It was very emotional, but he did agree to work with me, but he had very explicit instructions that he was going to really get me out of my comfort zone because he said, and I don't have time to go into it. Maybe if you ask me another time, I'll tell you the quick story of the comfort zone and what happens when you step outside of it. But pretty amazing things happen when you walk through those doors, through the unknown, the fear and everything, and how it just dissipates with people say, let me introduce you to this person. Anyway, he taught me a lot about dreams and visions and chasing my dream, etc. And he asked me one particular question. All of you have probably heard it before, but it was a defining moment for me. He said, Russell, are you willing to do the things that other people are not willing to do so you can have and become the things that most people will never have and never become? That was about the time I started learning about the 95 to 5%ers. Most people aren't going to do what it takes for many of their own reasons. They may have good intentions, but the road to hell's paved with good intentions. And anything, timing's not right. I don't have this education. I don't know the right people. I need time to get this in place and that in place. Instead of that procrastination is a killer. And he taught me how to just do it now and step out into it. So he put me through some really uncomfortable changes. And I learned that au contraire, if the branches are bare, don't go there. Most people I talk to, they want to tell me about their past, right? And the circumstances, etc. And what I try to do is find out where they're at and what they want and show them a way to get it. And if they don't take that bite from me, then unfortunately I lie, but I don't lie. Hey, boy, time got away from me. I'm going to have to go. I just, they're not ready. I love them where they're at, plant the seed, etc. But they're not ready to really listen. And so he gave me a book on how to win friends and influence people by Dale Carnegie. And one of his first instructions was to read 15 minutes a day, not 16, not 14, not finish the sentence, the paragraph, or the page. I didn't understand about the discipline at that time. And he said, if you'll start here and do this, if you have, every time we get together, I'm going to make some suggestions, and each one of them, every single one of them, you're going to be reluctant to even walk through. But if you don't call me anymore. I'm not working with you anymore. He was very serious about what he was doing. He didn't have time except for people that wanted what the things that I wanted. And it wasn't a year, it was 6 months, and it started me on a trajectory that completely transformed my life. And being consumed and understanding there's only three things that are important to me today. And that's what I listen to, what I read, and who I associate with. That input dictates new output. Without that, I'm default to, I know based upon my last 30 days, what my next 30 days are going to look like, because human behavior is so predictable, right? It's just so predictable. But because the only reference point you have is everything you've ever seen, heard, read, or done, right? So if you want a different tomorrow, you got to start today, now, by those three things or a combination of. Now, depending on what it is you're after, they don't materialize overnight, but new input will dictate new output. Left to the default, you don't have anything to offer. That was my first mentor. I have a lot of mentors in my life. I've learned how to be a son. I learned how to love and respect myself, knowing first whatever I give away, I have to have first. I can't consume it and expect it to do something for me without having it myself. So becoming a father and what it was to be a son, a husband, a grandfather, all those things, I owe it to a string of mentors, some of which are still in my life today, like all of you in this room. And that's all I got.
How about if we do this? We are rejoined by one of my favorite people, April Simmons, and it
Yes.
looks like Paul Meijer is out of the restaurant. So April or Paul, whoever wants to go first, and then the other one can follow. April, two
Hey,
things.
first off, I
One,
want to just say thank you, Russell.
well, thank you.
That story inspires me every time I hear it, and I've heard it many times. But thank you.
Thank you.
April, so Peter Smith has given his attention to some other projects. God bless him. But we're bringing in the estimable Ian Nethercott as our new official co-host. You know how much fun that's going to be. So, April, why don't you tell us who your mentor was or mentors, and then let's jump to Paul Meijer, and we'll make sure we get in David and Doug and Tim, Gary. It's so nice to see you all.
First of all, Larry, I just want to thank you for, always doing this and inviting me. This time of year can be a little bit difficult because it's 4 o'clock, so I'm still here hammering away at work. So thank you to Wendy for shooting me a little message and being like, "Hey, we're on," and a little reminder. So that was awesome. But I do want to piggyback and just say, Russell, it's so true. Every time Russell speaks this truth, I literally wrote down, I always write one little nugget from him. I probably in my book of nuggets have,
thank you.
A lot of little nuggets, but that new input dictates the new output. That is one simple sentence that is absolute fire. I think that what we think is who we become, and it's really important that we not get drawn into the negativity. And especially in automotive, there's so much of it. Even when we get past the drugs, the alcohol, the bad words, the bad behavior, and all the things, even when you get past all of those gates, the negativity can destroy humans in the automotive space. So my mentors through my time have been the people who have just quite simply, been more of a positive influence, right? Said, "Hey, today, what if just today?" Right. And I've had so many different people through the seasons, right? So to your point, Russell, like you said, everyone in this room is a mentor of mine. Well, I feel the same way. I feel that every single person in this room is a mentor of mine, because you've all provided little nuggets at little times in different seasons of my life. So when, you go back, who's your first mentor? Well, my dad, of course. My dad was my first mentor because he was the first one that said, rub some dirt on it and shake it off, little girl, it's all good, right? So he's the first one that helped shape who April Simmons is today. One of my big mentors today I give him so much credit. And if you've ever heard me speak, you know that I do. My husband is probably the biggest mentor I've ever had.
That's awesome.
My husband, of every human that is in my life, he is the one who has made me realize my worth. He is the one who has said, "You don't owe anybody anything. You do what you want to do." And just like you said, Russell, input creates that output. Years of him putting that into me and pouring that into me now is my output. Now I am healthier. I am stronger. I am better equipped to handle the day-to-day. because of that input. So I think it's really important that sometimes when we think mentors, when we're talking about business, we think about actual, mentors that are somebody that I paid or somebody that we did this with.
Sure.
But that is a really important mentor of mine is actually my husband. Another big mentor this year, I actually joined a Engaged Women Auto Group with Liza Borges for retail women, and it's been with Liza and Danelle Delgado. So if any of you have seen or heard or participated in any conversations with Danelle, life-changing, truly life-changing. I will tell you, by January of this year, about halfway through the program, I made dramatic changes in my life that I wasn't sure was ever going to happen, which was, prioritizing health, prioritizing nutrition, prioritizing some of the things that have been really difficult things for me through, I'm a car girl, right? Like I lived on Pop-Tarts for decades, so trying to get away from those kind of things. She has been an unbelievable mentor to me as well. But there's some other great ones out there. Jim Ziegler was a huge mentor of mine. And, I still have Miss Debbie in my life, and she is a mentor of mine. They are just amazing humans who have given so much. And I think one of the things with Jim being such a mentor of mine that I appreciated about him, he never cared where you came from. You didn't have to be the daughter's son of the owner to get his attention. Like he really has always supported, the minorities, and supported people that if you're good, you're good. And that was it to him. It didn't matter. So he was an absolute mentor of mine. And I've just been truly blessed that the universe has given me the right person at the right time. And if I look back 10, 15 years ago, I may have said, well, I didn't have any mentors, but I did, because even the bad mentors, even the people who were bad, they are the ones who shaped me to be who I am today.
That's right.
So there are mentors who are good mentors, and there are mentors who are bad mentors. And I think they both have a place, and we just have to know what that is. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox. I love being
Right
here.
on, April.
We'll jump to Paul Meijer, and then we'll make sure we get David and Doug in. By the way, so you guys know, I was flattered about a year ago when April told me I was one of her mentors. But unlike Russell, whose technical brilliance is there, and Tim Nilsen, who's just an ace, she said with me it was between me and Idi Amin, and since he was dead, I was now one of her mentors. That's where I placed in her thought process. Mr. Meijer?
That was Idi Amin Dada.
There we go. Are you ready to tell us who your mentor was, sir? And please don't say Chef Tell. We're a little fooded out with you tonight.
All right. So my first mentor was my dad. He was an amazing guy, right? He taught me that you don't need to know everything. You just need to know a little bit about a lot of things. And he says, if you do that, you'll get along just fine in life. My father was a voracious reader. He read books upon books upon books upon books every week. And while he had no more than a high school education, he was smarter than most people. When I would see him in conversation with people, he would be able to speak to anybody about anything. I don't care what it was. And years later, I was in Florida with my wife, and we were at a friend's house, and a guy came up to me and he said, Matt Meijer, the watchmaker, the Dutch guy, that was your dad, he said. I said, yeah, that was my dad. And he just had so many good stories to tell about him and all the different scenarios and situations that he was in, where he would help anybody, he would help everybody. And while I don't read fiction, but I spend hours upon hours every week to learn different things because I want to honor him and you need to know a little bit about a lot of things. So if something interests me, he drives me to learn about it, right? I had an issue with computers. I was late to the computer party. After spending the day on the tech helpline, I said, I'm never going to put myself in that position again. And when there was no school that would fit my schedule, I created my own curriculum and taught myself how to fix and build computers, all to honor him, right? Um, I have other mentors also in all of the people that I associate myself with, because each of you brings something to the table. I learn a little bit from everybody, and I take that and I put it into my life toolbox. And to piggyback on what April was saying, even a bad mentor is a good mentor. That couldn't be any more true. You know, the way I look at life is that there is no bad. Everything in life is good. And there are only this many things in life that are really bad. And if you are fortunate enough to have one or two of those really bad things happen to you, A, you learn from it, and B, that's one or two less really bad things going forward. So everything is truly, truly positive. I don't see anything as a negative experience. And when people ask me, you know, how you doing? My response, which I got from my late mother-in-law, who also taught me a lot about being a human being, my response is, I got nothing to complain about, because that's what she used to say, and it's so true. So I feel very fortunate, because I you know, I may not be a zillionaire, but I live comfortably, and I have fun every day, and I sleep like a dead person when I put my
Right
head on
on.
the pillow. I count back from 5. By 3, I'm out cold until the next morning. So that's my mentor story.
We
Paul,
love it.
thank you very much for that and being vulnerable. Appreciate it.
All right, listen, we've got so many good people on this show. Um, David, Doug, Gary, Abdul, who would like to go first? Tim Nilsen. We want
I,
to hear from every one of you.
mine's short,
Go ahead.
short and sweet, and I can go back to 1997, and I was a F&I manager, and I was looking to become the Connecticut representative for Universal Underwriters. And there was one of the guys that was interviewing me. His name was Michael Tuno. Michael Tuno was the regional manager, and he oversaw all of the FIRAs, guys like myself. Today, Michael is still my mentor, because when there's any compliance questions, when there's anyone that I need to go to for legalities of what is true and what is not, I can always go to Michael Tuno. Michael has taught me, it being in the business for as long as a lot of us have been in, is that if you do it right the first time, you never have to worry about all the problems. Well, in the auto industry, doing it right the first time, unfortunately, is an oxymoron. But I've been blessed to have a friend, a mentor like Michael, that he's been able to help me navigate through all the ups and downs in this crazy business that we're in. Um, what's even more great is that, now I'm working with a wonderful guy, Larry Feldman, and another wonderful guy, Mike Larkin. And together, I'm learning from these guys, and I'm so happy to be involved with them on our podcasts. That check out season or episode number 8. That was when we actually interviewed Mike Tuno. And if anybody who wants to learn or wants to understand compliance, let me tell you, Mike Tuno is the guy that knows compliance. They invite him into the meetings so they get his opinion on what's going on in the marketplace. So I'm thrilled to be on this show with you guys, learning from everybody, and but I look to Mike Tuno and as my mentor at doing it correct the first time. So
But I want to make just a comment. Gary alluded to looking to Mike and I for guidance. That's the equivalent of asking Stevie Wonder to read something to you without Braille. So he may need another mentor in the future as he recovers from Larry and Mike. Um,
I love you,
Doug
Larry.
Reeves, David, Tim, and we're never going to forget about Mr. Larkin. He'll come up the rear with me. David, Doug, Tim, the three of you are admired. You're respected. David, we know what you overcame. Whoever wants to go first, who was your mentor? Who were your mentors?
I'll jump in. This is Doug. So I can think of five in order. First is my father, who taught me my work ethic and also left this legacy of whatever you do, whatever you find, leave it better than when you found it. And that's something I've lived by ever since then. The next is my wife, who really taught me how to be a husband and how to be a father, because I was clueless when we got married. And she's been, 36 plus years later, she still inspires me on a daily basis. And as I got into this industry, I had a boss that taught me the good and the bad. The bad was, and I learned this and avoided like the plague, was don't say anything you need to say to get a deal, because that's what he would do, and it blew up in his face, and I ended up buying him out ultimately. But the good thing he taught me was patiently, pleasantly persistent will get you a lot of business, and that's something I live by. The fourth one is my current boss, who, although 20 years younger than me, has opened my eyes to maybe skills I didn't know I had, has given me confidence that I perhaps lacked when I started with the company 5 years ago, and has really given me the ability to realize that maybe I have more to offer than I really think. And the last one are my three grandchildren, 5, 4, and 3, who have taught me the value of unconditional love and just being happy to be with people. So those would be mine.
Love it.
Thank you, Doug.
We still have, yeah, absolutely. We still have Tim, Abdul, David, with me and Mr. Larkin bringing up the rear. Abdul, David, Tim, who would like to speak up?
I'm here, Abdul. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. Well, I consider, of course, father and mother always is number one in the list. But I was born with a congenital heart defect. So at a very young age, they never thought that I would survive till my teens. But thankfully, my father loved us enough, of course, to get us here to wonderful USA. And I went through a major open heart surgery in my teens. And once I survived that, and here I am, and went through marketing. And one of my professional mentors were, of course, my first in the insurance industry, Mr. Samuel Katz in Beverly Hills. I joined his agency down there, and he showed me the ropes of the insurance industry and everything else. And going through that, of course, once that took a little of a downturn due to medical crisis of HIV in California, then I joined the automotive industry, and I wish I would have done the automotive industry 5 years earlier when Mr. Longo opened up at the new Longo store in El Monte. And over there, my big mentor was, of course, between the leasing manager, Mike DeVille, took me under the wing because there was no training. Here's a worksheet, here's your four square, this is how much down, how much a month, and all of that, going through straight sales. And I learned from pretty much the top of the guys in the ladder board. And I said, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's how it was self-motivation and getting through all of that. And then that was able to come through financing end of it was Tom Laughlin, big guy with the Browning Group.
that showed me finance and how to do it and kept me motivating to go to from number 3 spot to number 1 spot for a long, long time. And Rick Walker, another very big mentor and to get into move up in the industry on up. And more than anything else, after 27 years in the insurance industry, in the automotive industry, of course, my mother was a very, very loving. Anytime I had a little tough time, of course, being a single dad for many years, raising 2 beautiful children from college and everything. So I've learned a lot, like I said, hearing from everyone in here. One of the great things I've learned is that take each every day with a blessing and be grateful. And now have been joining your group here. I've heard so many great things with you, Larry, and the group and everybody else. So it's never late to learn anything. And now, like I said, Abe became a mentor of mine in AI, and here we are. So life has been pretty good, and you learn from the good and the bad, but mostly it's been a fun ride for me to have survived such a illness and to go through it at a such young age, and still be grateful and ready to still kick ass and take numbers. That's about
Abdul, we love that. I taught a class today, and one of the things I always do is I talk about one of my best friends, Hallie Garcia's philosophy that
right.
you should live each day like you're dying because you are dying.
We are dying.
And I'm quoting my own book, Inner Moron Demons. Everybody in the graveyard would get up and take every one of your problems that you think are so insurmountable. So I think I speak for our community when I say we're very glad you survived. We're very glad you're here, and we're glad you're on our program. David or Tim, man, would we love to hear who your mentors are.
So probably some of my biggest mentors are a lot of the GMs and executive teams that I've worked with throughout the years, but a lot of that falls back to probably my adopted grandfather. My adopted grandfather brought me in the dealership when I was 13. I hated him for it because he made me clean the place. But he made me understand how to work with customers, how to work in different departments, gave me a lot of responsibility, got me off the street. Because at that time I was homeless. I didn't have a family. I was living on my own, and he took me under his wing. And then my godfather, who was Jerry Montalto, or Jerry Montel, kind of taught me how to sell cars a lot. Throughout that time, though, I had so many mentors. I think Terry Kunis bought me my first suit. Jim Priegel, was a mentor of mine, Greg Jutras. Motivational mentors. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Jim Ziegler as well, and teaching me a lot of different things and morals, and ways to work with people. I'll say the unforgiven name sometime, Grant Cardone. I learned a lot from Grant and working with things with him. But I probably learned the most from Zig Ziglar. He did my high school graduation. Later on, I would go once a year to just motivational seminars with his. So I did about 6 years of going to training with him. And I think that a lot of the morals he gave me, still live today. But if I had to pick one of probably hundreds of mentors and all of you on this call, because I learned stuff from you, Larry, I learned stuff from Russell, I learned stuff from Wendy, I learned something from Paul. I mean, so many of you impact my life, even though you don't know it, because I read your articles and I watch and I'm your fan. But again, if I had to go back to one, it would probably be my grandfather, my adopted grandfather, who just taught me to do the hardest things first. He's like, whatever you don't like to do.
David, what was his name?
Tony D'Angelo. So my grandfather, Tony D'Angelo, taught me how to do the hardest things first. And my grandmother's family, they were the Sweet Techs, and they owned the Buick dealership in Blue Island, Illinois. And they owned dealerships in North Riverside. And there was an annoying finance manager I didn't like that ended up buying the dealerships, which was Tony Castle, of the Castle Automotive Group. So I've been around the car business forever. I'm fourth generation from my great 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 grandfather from the 1920s selling Model Ts. My son is now our fifth generation in the car business, and it's done everything for me. Obviously, you guys know my health issues where I had a few strokes. So that was kind of a change in my life. So I said, now I need to give back to this business and really kind of empower everybody. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're healthy, and we always enjoy your participation in every way, shape. In fact, I got to tell you, I appreciate every one of you. I really look forward to these Wednesdays. I like everybody's input. I like you all personally, and we just appreciate the heck out of you. Mr. Nielsen,
Hey,
please tell us who
welcome.
your mentors were or are.
Absolutely. Welcome from the Jermaine V. Wild team out here in Columbus, Ohio. I think it's a lot of similar sentiments going across here with the mentors. A lot of it's our fathers and grandfathers, and those are two right off the bat. My grandfather, Linus Bach, and my dad, Jerry Nilsen, who were farmers in Missouri, and taught me a lot of hard work and do it with a handshake and a smile, and bust your tail every day and good things will happen. If I had to go into the car business, one of my first sales managers, Todd Matthews, a sales manager now still with us with our Lexus organization, Germain Lexus over in Easton. He's the one that took me under his wing the first. And then there's a couple guys once I became a GM. Josh Miller, who's a GM of our Lexus store. It's been with the company now 20, almost 30 years probably. And then Brian Kramer, when I became a GM. What was the cool thing about it is I got to work with Brian as a GM, even though I was a younger GM, and we're about all the same age here. Brian and Josh and myself, they were GMs before me. They were already proving themselves. They're already showing what they could do. And I was able to just watch them as GMs with our group and watch them execute, and then take some of the stuff that they learned, some of the good, some of the bad, and develop my own teams with it. And that's been real instrumental to a lot of the success of the stores that I've had working with them. And then the last 7 months, I got to hang out with Eric Barbosa with the Cavender Group out of San Antonio, Texas, and he just a great deal of wealth, and hopefully take some of that stuff that I learned when I was down in Texas, bring it back here, and then take it to a whole new level. So, no, love every one of you guys here. You guys have been instrumental part in my life, and I enjoy coming in here, hanging out with you guys on Wednesdays when I can, and listen to your all stories as well. So, thank you, Larry.
Russell, we hope it's no big emergency, and we hope everything works out, and we appreciate seeing you tonight as usual, my friend.
Yeah.
Mr. Larkin, who are your mentors, sir? Who were they? Who are they? And how have they influenced you, please?
Hey, this is easy. My first mentor would be my father. And he was growing up, he was a fireman, so he was my hero. He worked while he was a fireman, and invited over the Irish kids that played basketball. You never saw a 7-foot Irishman, but the girls could play. and we had 10 of them come over on basketball scholarships through the years. And each one of those girls has been my older sister. Some of them, as I got older, are my younger sisters. And he never had a daughter. So it's a pretty cool dynamic. Now their kids are they go see Uncle Mike. But he taught me the values that I persist with and brought it over to my business, which is we're able to do. We're loyal to our clients and staff, and we seek lifelong friendships every single day. That's how I live my days. As far as the car business, my first mentor in the car business, I never sold a car in my life, is Paul Meijer. And he'll remember 2020 NADA. I wasn't there, but I was on your phone and I was following you around NADA. And what came after that was COVID, but we never thought it was going to be COVID on that day. So my first mentor in the car business is Paul Meijer. I love you, Guy. He's like a brother from another mother. And then onward, all you guys in this room have been my mentors, because I wouldn't have been able to gain the knowledge and the experience without you. You've all added something to my knowledge base, and I'm continuing to learn about this crazy industry called the car industry. So I'm Mike and I'm dropping my mic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're starting to find out what it's like to deal with the dealers after all these years.
Starting to
and having a blast with it.
I guess I better jump in with some mentors. Before I do that, I want to note the passing of two musical giants. We lost Sly Stone 2 days ago, and we just lost Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
Crazy how central these people were to music and what they did. My mentors, I mean, I'm like you guys and ladies. I'm influenced by everybody all the time. A lot of the things you said rang with me because you can learn and benefit more from a bad experience. A bad mentor can teach you more than a good one, because if you're smart, you go, that behavior is horrible. I never want to do that, or I want to be better than that, or I want that to spur me on. I'll stick some family stuff first. I had a grandfather that was so family oriented that he kept, my mother had one brother. He had a big family. My mom had kids. And when he was alive and my grandmother was alive, they tied everything together. When they passed, we're still all friendly, but we became much more fragmented because there was no longer, hey, it's the summer, we're going down the shore being Atlantic City, to our grandparents' house. They had a giant house. And I'll never forget, he was older, and somebody asked him, how do you feel? And he said, I always feel great when I'm with my family. It's crazy how you get older, you pine for things, and just that feeling of real family where you're so tied in. Just a really strong, wonderful guy. My father, I learned a lot of things from my father, and I think a lot of my fearlessness comes from my father, because my father, whatever it was, he was willing to take a shot. And man, anybody that knows me knows I don't fear too much. Rhonda's always busting my chops. When I had the pleasure of meeting Gary Sillman and Mike Larkin, they watched us cut 15 videos in a row, all the Larry talks you guys see, with no script. We just banged it out. I loved it because I love winging it, and Rhonda was having a stroke. But my father was completely fearless. He was a little crazy. I guess I also inherited that from him. I have an older brother who is very successful, but what I liked about him is he treated everybody good. He didn't talk down to anybody. He didn't act like a big shot. I never really liked big shots. Right? I like to measure people by how they treat everybody, not just people that they need or who are in their class, financially or whatever. And if we're going to talk mentors, some of you guys know I wrote a song, or in the process of getting that one in a movie too, called "Looking for Elvis." But I'll tell you, with the passing of the great Sly Stone and the great Brian Wilson, I'll tell you who was a big mentor to me, because he was a big mentor to everybody that ever picked up a guitar, and that's Chuck Berry. Probably the most underrated musician that will ever live. The way he influenced the Beatles, the way to this day Keith Richards is his bastard stepson. And his lyrics, if you listen to Little Richard and the stuff that was out, bing, bam, boom. He was writing like Dylan before Dylan ever picked up a guitar. His stuff was advanced, his music. He didn't just influence me, he influenced every band you've ever heard, including the bands that influenced everybody like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And very similar to some of the stories we heard tonight. But by the way, Tim, he might have been bipolar because his behavior was so bad, beyond bad. I mean, he went to jail for the Mann Act because he took very young women across state lines to have sex with him. He had a camera in the bathroom. Another guy that was completely out of his mind, but a guy that changed the world. The people on this program, you all mentor me, and I got to tell you, wherever I go, I find a mentor. If their behavior sucks, I learn from it. If their behavior is great, I try to borrow it or steal it or move on. God forbid, Abdul survived. Thank God. Okay. David Rose survived. But if you're in the hospital and they're not sure if you're alive or dead, they look at that line of the brain waves. And if it's stagnant, you're dead.
Yeah.
If you're alive, you should be constantly thinking, learning, trying to improve, because that's where the fun is in this. Just absolutely letting it fly, realizing every day we're dying, that we should turn the volume up every day and we should roll. So we're at 7:59. We very much appreciate every one of you. We look forward to working with you and seeing you. Having Ian on is going to be great. I don't know anybody that doesn't like the guy. And boy, does he bring value to everything and everybody. And we're really, really excited about the future and about everything that could possibly be. So every one of you, we thank you. We look forward to seeing you. We're going to keep these topics lively. We're going to make sure everybody gets their say. And really that's it. We really appreciate all of you.
We too.
Yeah.
Very much. Looking
Thank you,
forward to
everybody. Have a
Thank you, everybody. Please
night
stay
and
healthy
weekend.
and we'll see you soon.